Hello again, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the AJ Roberts Show. And today we are very, very delighted to be joined by this fantastic guest, beautiful lady, all the way from South Africa, Farrah Weir, the spiritual healer and teacher that has recently come into my life as a result of a mutual friend whose show I was on. And as a result of a particular event that I was going to be attending, that me and Farrah come to know each other. And she helped me with her amazing talents release any like unwanted guests within my realm. And as a result of that, we've become I'd say pretty close, got so much in common, and I was really excited that she wanted to come on the podcast today so that we can actually talk about what she does in detail, because it's so profound and it's so just wonderful. It's like it's massive. It's like everything she does is so expansive, and it's been a great journey and an experience for me to share my recent experiences with Farrah. So I wanted to get her on the podcast today to explain a little bit about what she does and how she helps people all around the world. So welcome to the show, my friend.
What a beautiful, very humbling introduction. Thank you so much, AJ. Lovely to be here. I'm very grateful.
You're absolutely welcome. So obviously, just cast your mind back to like a few weeks ago, we were introduced as a result of myself being on Anina's podcast and talking about like what I do and what's going on in the world, etc., etc. And it was really great to have that initial conversation with you, and I got like to experience firsthand what you do, which is like next level. And I've shared it with everybody in my online community and the people that do my courses and stuff like that, because it's of a keen interest to them. But for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners, is it all right to just sort of share like in detail like what it is you do and how you help people?
Sure, cool. So I call it conscious astral travel, but as I've explained to you, it's very spirit led. So I got trained by spirit. I also worked with for a period of time another amazing woman doing the same work together. And yeah, so there's no book you can go read about it, or I do see this coming for a lot of people, where spirit showed me in 2020 we're going to have a whole bunch of new modalities coming online. So that sits within someone's DNA. It's their blueprint of what their specific puzzle piece is to help heal and bring. So my work consists of working from a very higher dimensional space, and then kind of going back in time, going through time, looking at contracts, looking at past lives, bloodlines, where our energy has been hijacked in the astral realm. I mean, there really is no limit. Like if it comes up, your galactic stuff. I've done so much planetary work. So I was told to stay behind the scenes last year to do a lot of work for Gaia and for humanity, and working on the contracts that were made for humanity and Gaia. That through those astral travels and through all that work I did, you learn so much, which means I can just help another person really step into their power. And I don't like the word train or teach, because I'm not above anyone, but guide people to see and feel and experience so that they can do this work themselves, because everybody has that ability to do it. They might do it in a slightly different way to me, but that's, I think, in a nutshell. There's so much I could say. I don't want to talk for too long.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, I got the experience firsthand. I was explaining to all our online community last week about the astral projection session that we did. It was quite profound and very kind of individual, and I'd recommend it to absolutely everybody. And even if it just gives you sort of like an eye opener, literally third eye opener to what is possible to see, witness, and feel like within like the astral realms, outside the physical body, it's absolutely fantastic. And I talk to people all the time about this stuff, and people always say, who have never really experienced it, I say, oh, have you had a feeling sometimes we felt like you just suddenly fell asleep, almost and jolted for a split second, and you're like, and they're like, yeah, why? And I was like, well, that's kind of, you've already experienced it. So we've done multiple times throughout our life. And then when they kind of like understand that, they're like, oh wow, yeah, it just makes sense, and they instantly feel a connection to it. So it is very much a real thing. And is it something you've been sort of practicing since a child? Like, when did you first kind of realize that you had this kind of abilities to be able to do this and just dip in and out of the kind of astral realm and you know, connect to spirit?
So like I've asked myself that question so much. You know, I was raised in a Christian home, very happy, clappy Christian home, youngest of 4 kids. I was quite deep. I used to write a lot of poetry, and I was always interested in reading like philosophy and stuff. I think I was doing it unconsciously already when I was sort of a teenager. And I was terrified of aliens as a child. I was terrified of getting abducted. So I was already tapping into something there. But, you know, being raised in a Christian home, there's a lot of fear put in you. You know, if you meditate, my parents, like, we weren't allowed to watch gummy bears because the gummy berry juice has got some evil potion in it. It was like kind of that experience. And I love my parents. They did an amazing job. They are beautiful. And I love all Christian people. Just the fear element for me was not something I enjoyed. But I did love going to church, and I loved connecting with God. And my parents put me in Christian schools, and so I always had that community. And in that space, I would always have these amazing connections with God, where I'd feel like I was floating in space, directly connecting to God, or what we'd call source. And then I got married, and quite young, and I had a baby. I have an 11-year-old daughter at 24. And, you know, you go through your phase in life where you party a little bit, and I have a very fun side to me. And then when I had my daughter at 24, I kind of had another round of awakening. So that was 2012 when the energy shifted. Actually, I was born 87, and then where there was a big planetary shift. And then 2012, my daughter came in. And then I met actually what I thought at the time was a twin flame, 3 or 4 years after I got married, which that was like the big catalyst for my awakening. And I ended up going through a divorce, through meeting this person who lived overseas, which was huge for me because, yeah, you can imagine how people judge you, and I really wanted to step in and own this experience I was having, because I thought it would go away, but it was insane. I could start to feel energies from across the world, and I could start remembering past lives. So that was hard. I lost a lot of friends, and family were a little bit concerned about me, as you can imagine. And then I really, once I had gotten divorced, because my husband, who's lovely but wasn't spiritual at all, I started doing walking meditations every day, and that's how I learned to channel. And I just yeah, then I had my whole series of things in my life just got removed and removed and removed. So there was nothing else for me to do other than connect and do it. Yeah.
Amazing. And just going back to what you were saying then about like what you thought was your twin flame. Obviously, there's the term is quite as gets thrown around a lot, doesn't it? And so some people don't quite understand it. There's lots of definitions of it, or people have their own versions of events in regards to it. But how would you best describe a twin flame to those who are kind of just dipping their toes in sort of like the spiritual world and understanding like a lot of the terminology and things like that?
So yeah, it's so interesting. Okay, so I understand monad soul. Spirit showed me, and we've spoken about this. So part of the work I was doing during my planetary work was Spirit took me back. I asked about where does darkness come from. So that's a long story, but I basically saw Luciferic AI consciousness. So I saw God as the great central sun. That's original consciousness. When I go back to look at someone's personalized original consciousness, then I see their journey of individuation. So how they sparked out of the great central sun. And as with all things, the more you do things, the more information grows and the more you learn. So when I first looked at that, I thought it was an individual that popped out of the sun. And then Spirit started showing me it's a group soul, because that individual soul then splits up. So your monad is that original spark of individuation. And then that's why this topic, I think, becomes complicated, because we meet people that could be part of that original monad structure, which would share the same, I call it like a motherboard that sits in the great central sun, just using these terms, sun and stuff, because Spirit always explains to me, they have to give me images for me to understand quantum mechanics and energies that go so far beyond the limitations of Earth. So they give us visuals in presentations we can understand. So I'm not saying that God is the sun. I'm just saying that's how it's showed to me. So we can meet people that come from our original monad soul structure, where you'll feel like you're getting to know them more than, or you're remembering them more than you're getting to know them. So there's definitely a feeling of, you just vibe with this. It's like I said, you and I had a very similar energy. We come from a monad soul structure. But that doesn't make you my twin flame, because the soul breaks up, and then so more. So the way I understand a twin flame is the last time your soul split, that last split, that is the person. But I do think that there is a lot of weight given to these things, and a lot of unnecessary, what is the word I want to use, stuff that is tolerated, or people kind of hide behind in and around this twin flame thing. I do believe your journey is really about you coming into actualization within self, and into alchemy within self, and then whoever you bring in, whether it's a twin flame or what we'd call a soulmate, someone you can still have a just as profound and beautiful and growing experience.
Because I mean, I guess it's it could be quite easy to mistaken somebody as what you think is a twin flame, as like the love of your life for the rest of your life in the future, and where there's obviously perhaps a slight difference. Maybe that person is actually out there, but you just haven't come across them yet. And is it, I mean, as more and more people are becoming a lot more spiritual, because we're seeing it everywhere, aren't we? Like people are having, these massive awakenings and connections. I mean, I have to look at like my DMs, my messages, and my emails from like the last month compared to 6 months ago, and what people are contacting me with, and the kind of questions and things they need help with, or across all social media platforms. There's actually quite a lot different to 6 months ago, and a lot of it is around like what star family they're from and all stuff like that, which is amazing, because it's like the conversations that I want to be having. I'm not too keen on keep talking about big pharma and all that. Like we've kind of worked out what everyone knows what they're all about, but they don't know what they are about. So that's what I'm keen as are you, to help people find that deep connection about where they're really from and who they are. And that's the purpose of my courses and talks, etc. So same as yourself. And I get a lot of people talk about the whole twin flame thing, so it's great to hear you explain it like that, because when you said there, like the twin flame is like the last sort of like fractal piece, would you say then in this lifetime that those pairings would be very, very similar? People have a lots in common and everything before they even come together?
I think so, to some degree, but it's also like the yin and the yang, so there would be a complementary experience. But I do think until you've worked through a lot of your shadow elements, because the point of a twin flame union in the physical would be to come together and accelerate. So what you're here to do together. So like I'm on my mission right now on my own, doing what I need to do. So it's, I don't know if this is a taboo topic, but spirit always shows me that, like, for example, if I look at the sacral chakra, so in a woman, so let's talk about the womb, there's a universe in there that's a creational seed point. So they always say to me, you create through the sparks of your heart. But for example, if you're intimate with someone where there's such pure love, and from that sacral space, you can accelerate manifestation. So that's why often couples who are just so beautiful together, and they just like so supportive and so connected, you'll see they do amazing things very quickly. Like they shift rapidly. So yeah, they've explained that to me in terms of the sacral chakra. That's also why I see it as violet, throat is blue, heart is pink, sacral is violet. So that's masculine, feminine come together, merge in the universal area, which is the creational seed point, the sacral chakra. But I think that for people to be successful in a twin flame journey, or to call it in, there's a certain amount of work that needs to be done on self. or that you do together, and not, and you remember, you can't choose for someone what they choose. So often the connection's so overwhelming and intense because of the activations that happen, that one partner can get very overwhelmed and run away. So that's why they talk about the whole runner thing a lot. I don't think it's as common as like people say this is the definite way a twin flame relationship is going to play out, but there are certain themes. And yeah, so I would say most importantly to focus on self, but when you're at the right point in life, whether it's a twin flame or a soulmate, that whoever's going to come in to help you and you help them accelerate what it is that you're doing should at some point step forward.
Yeah. And I guess going back to your experiences as well, just like sometimes they're there is an activation for you to like activate what you need in your DNA even further.
No, I promise you, the man I met, and the love was so beautiful and pure. I've never ever experienced anything like that. It was a huge, how I see it now that I'm not in that relationship anymore, is that it was really about a catalyst for growth for himself as well as myself, and it really unlocked all of the information in my DNA. So that's why I started Googling. Like when I was like, that's how I came across the twin flame word, because I was like putting into Google, like, why am I experiencing someone else's energy like 12,000 miles away? Like all these crazy things that are happening to me. So for that, I'm so grateful, because it really accelerated my journey.
Yeah. And do you know what? I know for a fact there's going to be a lot of people watching and listening now, like just on that conversation we've just had, that's going to really resonate with so many people. And I genuinely believe so. And I've got good friends that have had very profound experiences over the last couple of years where they've been in like long-term relationships, like in the 3D, married and all the rest of it. And it's just kind of it's just been an ism, you know, it's kind of, they've just done the usual go around the wheel every day. And then they've just had this like really profound experience where they've just met somebody and they've both of them just been like, whoa, you know, like as in, I feel like we've known each other for ages. And I've had several conversations with these individuals about this, and then they're now together with these people. Yeah, a few people I know. I've never had those kind of conversations before 2 years ago, which, you know, I think's pretty amazing. So yeah, it's good for us to have these kind of conversations and to bring this conversation to the podcast as well, because that's what I'm really trying to do, is just have these important conversations that everyone can resonate with, male and female, you know, which I think is so important right now, because everyone's going through some kind of shift, whether it's like, whether it's, do you know what? I think the government and the media might be working together, you know, whether they're at that stage or whether they're just like sitting on the edge of a cliff and like surrounded by crystals and pure Zen wearing a robe, you know, it's people are on this. Everybody is on some kind of shift. Yeah, everyone.
And under some kind of growth journey, which is often hardship and pressure.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because it's taken me a long time to be able to tell my story confidently, because it is hard. You know, I try to be I really pride myself in being authentic. And wow, you know, to say I had an emotional affair while I was married because I met my twin flame, went through a divorce to be together, didn't end up together, you know, like my story's pretty out there, and a lot of people would not get it. They would just judge it, and that's okay. But it took me a lot of work and to go through all of these hardships. I mean, you know, a little bit, I'm now a single mom to an 11-month-old, so you know a little bit about my story. And I'm so grateful for every single hardship, because it just made me so much stronger, better, clearing more layers and more like belief systems and programs that are sitting in us. But I also have an incredible amount of empathy and understanding for what especially spiritually awake people are having to go through. Because I always say it's like all the gifts and all the good stuff is in the crap, but it doesn't make it less difficult trying to navigate all of these things that start happening when you are your DNA starting to come back online.
Yeah. And, you know, for the benefit of the people that are watching now, that, you know, a lot of this language may be new to them, like how would you describe a spiritual awakening? Because I mean, I guess it's all individual, how you experience it, but just if you would just put a bit of a rough guide to what it is. Because I don't tend to call it a spiritual awakening personally. I just, because I don't like to put like pink and fluffy words around names and stuff like
I
that.
know.
So I often refer to it. We're all just remembering who we are and
Yeah.
potentially our relationship with others. And when usually when I say it like that, it often gets a very good response. Like especially at my talks, people are like, "Oh yeah, that makes total sense." And you know that one of the reasons I didn't go to the event in Portugal is because I'm just not that person to stand there and wear crystals and diamonds. I'm just like plain t-shirt dude with tats. It just says how it is, you know. And like and
I love it.
everyone who's watched my journey has physically seen my journey in the last 3 years, you know. And I don't hide away from it. And I think it opens up a lot of doors and opens up a lot of space for people to actually go, do you know what? And I know because they contact me. So you know, and it's because they're going through that journey. So like, how would you kind of describe it? Because there's not a one-stop shop, is it? You know, it's an ever-growing thing.
Yeah, well, I love that analogy that you use. Like you just wear your black t-shirts and you have a tattoos. And I'm kind of like, you know, I put my Vans on and I also have a few tattoos and I like to like look like a cool soccer mom, you know. I don't want to be always in a flowy dress with, you know, I like makeup. And so what I'm saying is like it doesn't look one way for everyone. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm like I don't always say, well, what one of my things is that not everyone needs to be vegan, not everyone needs to do this or do that. There is every soul's so individual in their blueprint for what works for them. And I just feel like there's so many boxes that just keep us actually in separation more than anything else. So it doesn't look, to me, a spiritual awakening doesn't look one way for a person. And it's so funny because sometimes when I have to get ready for interviews, I'm like, what do I wear? What do I wear? And then I'm like, just wear a black t-shirt, exactly like you said, because today I'm not wearing black. It's the first time I'm not wearing black. But anyway, that's just a funny synchronicity. A spiritual awakening is it's for me, it's like you said, a remembering, but it's a transcending the matrix. So it's exactly like the Matrix, the movie, when you get unplugged. And I actually unplug sometimes clients from the Matrix because the dome's over our planet. So we can't fight that system. We've got to transcend up and out of it, and that's where we go to where the organic crystalline template is, the original template for Earth, the original matrix that's not hijacked and inverted. It was actually a protective grid. So for me it's the transcending up and out. So that is a lot of deep, profound work on self. It's going, where are these triggers showing me about something I need to heal in myself? And that's why I always say I bridge the very basic psychology, like where you're looking the lens, turn the lens inwards. You can do so much energy work and meditation, but if you're not watching your thoughts day to day, if you're not using your triggers as a tool to look within, to look at where you're still subconsciously running in sine waves. And I do a lot of teaching around the geometric sequencing and patterning and mechanics of quantum manifestation, all of that jazz. But there's so much that's held within our cellular structure, past lives, all that memory sits in our body. So your body is like your storyboard, or whatever you want to call it. Your body is always telling you something. So that's where I look at, like, if illness is sitting in the body or pain is sitting in the body from one level and one layer, because there's many layers. I look at what are the past lives around there, or what is the trauma we're holding in that space, and how do we clear that? Because we incarnate into this planet, our memory gets wiped, but then our DNA has all the memory sitting in it. So that's all coming back. That's all. And then with that, the gifts as well. So you've done many galactic lifetimes. And I've said to you as well, people like to say, I'm from Andromeda, or I'm from Pleiades, or I'm from Sirius or Lyra or whatever. And I'm like, bro, you've been to all of those planetary systems. Pretty much everyone I see, you might resonate very strongly with one because you were last there when you heard the call for Earth. But mostly we've fought a lot of galactic wars. I've seen it. I've gone back in time. I have a purple planet. I don't even know what its name is. It's like 2 billion years where we were just consciousness, like orbs. So we are so multidimensional. and that is you could spend your whole lifetime exploring it, and you wouldn't even have a fraction of it.
And I guess like the ability to be able to see that as part of the as a part of someone's awakening is you know, their chakras, their energy centers coming online, their third eye opening, because everything we have experienced in this false matrix from birth, pretty much, you know, we've gone through this whole lifetime up until now, whatever age you are, of like not remembering who you are, and then it's instant especially in the Western world, like intoxication through pharmaceuticals, sugars, you know, starchy carbohydrates, like you name it. You know, it's just, I'm pretty sure everyone can write out a massive list of the things that actually dumb us down, and that's the entire point, isn't it? To keep that third eye closed, to keep the crown chakra closed. You know, that was one of the points of the so-called pandemic, you know, from 2020, was to close that the crown and the third eye and stuff like that, among many other things, but also bring it online for people to create that spiritual awakening, which is what we're seeing all over the world. You know, I'm a big
flip side, there's always a flip side to every coin, and then there's multiple coins, so it's like
yeah, absolutely, and it's I mean, it's great to witness, and at the minute I'm seeing it I'm seeing it like quite profoundly in a lot of friends and family as well, and that's why I keep saying to people, you know, my talks is like, we've all gone through that period in 2020, 2021 where they've been shaking their family and friends. Why can't you see what we can see? And, you know, those family and friends have made particular choices in their lives over the last 3 years. And as I say all the time, there's no right or wrong in this. That's actually part of their awakening to
Absolutely.
whatever it is in their life and their lessons. So, you know, all we're doing is by shaking people is by keep them in those low levels of vibration, in that fear, that guilt, that shame, and they don't come out of there. And then when they suddenly do come to sort of certain realizations, they're in those fear and guilt, you know, contractions down here. So then what people do is they start manifesting their own illnesses and their own ailments and their own conditions and stuff like that. And that's what we're seeing right now. So that's why I'm so hot on saying to people, like, we need to get around everyone, show people how they can heal, show people that the first start of the healing process is to understand that this is part of your awakening to what's grand over here. And then when people have that, like, I guess, acceptance and willingness and the courage to go, yeah, do you know what? All this stuff that the last few years, crap. Right, what's this side? Where am I going now? And then it's almost like a liberation. And I say this from experience, because I always say to people at my talks that in 2003, like I was part of the immunization program prior to going to Iraq, so for anthrax, and I had like 1 out of the 3, and I was proper ill, and there was a very large number of other people who were as well. So that was always my eye opener to like every single shot that's out there, is because of how it affected me and what I saw with my own eyes. And that, you know, so going into 2020, I already had my mind made up about what was going on. So that was always going to be part of my journey, you know. And we talk about people in like the spiritual community, you know, who say, well, I better wait for 30 years. And I walk around in the same dress the whole time, carrying my staff and my crown. You've been in the game 5 minutes, you know, they say to so many people. But what people don't realize is that person, me, you, everybody else watching, have had to have the experiences that you've had up until this point, or leading up to 2020, to take you into 2020 and beyond, as almost like your basic training for now. You know, that's what this is all about, isn't it? Like every single trial and tribulation, you know, relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
Loss of jobs,
absolutely.
Loss of house, loss of this, you know, trauma, addiction, you know, all of it. And that's one of the things I've found, especially with us, we've talked about this before, is that the people that are very like awakened to what's going on, very, like spiritually attuned, have all had addictions and trauma. Like I haven't met anyone who's just brought up with a silver spoon in their mouth in a manor house and just gone like, I am so tapped into my field in the universe. No.
It's so true, because first of all, one of the big reasons for addiction, especially for light workers or starseeds, is the empath thing. So being on this planet is incredibly overwhelming. So I see it all the time with the children who just don't feel safe being here. It's very, very dense. It's very polarized. So that's hard. And then from another soul perspective, we're clearing things for bloodlines. So when we clear things for bloodlines, we're clearing it for Gaia, because it's stored a lot. This is all about, a lot of it is about Gaia. So what Gaia is holding, the collective. So we're transmuting a lot on the behalf of ourselves and others and our bloodlines and the collective. So we are, like I've used the analogy before, like a diamond has to be under pressure to grow. We did sign up for stuff. I'm always like, did you check the fine print before you came in, Faz? Well, that's my nickname, Faz. So I actually said it on Mark's show the other day. I said, it's really hard. And he said, oh, that's a limiting belief. And then after I finished chatting to him, I was like, from one level, yes, it's a limiting belief, but from another level, there are certain hardships we've had to go through, and there is no escaping it. And I was thinking about my baby, like my baby screams when he's uncomfortable. That's just a fact. And he's a pure soul, he's come in. There's, a baby's a great example of innocence and then not having all that programming. Obviously, I didn't vaccinate my boy. So yeah, there are some things that just are, and I kind of stand by that. I'm not meaning it as a limiting belief, but I'm just saying that we've all had to go through hardships. There's great thing in that, but it doesn't make it less hard. So I have a lot of compassion and empathy for what people are navigating when they choose this path. Because I used to look around, I used to say, Spirit, like, what is going on here? Everyone who is not on an awakening journey is living their best lives. And from one perspective, the matrix, hijack matrix the AI does not reward, but it helps service to self individuals, right? And light individuals are targeted. So we've got many layers here. We've got what we've said. Like when I look at the quantum computer, like the infinite structure and the intelligence, the organic intelligence, and how something is designed when we incarnate into Earth, the intricacy of it, like what we chose, knowing the matrix, past lives, like how it all comes together, souls that we need to meet, that we like family members. I mean, sometimes my mind feels like it's going to pop off my head, like when I'm trying to tap into how brilliantly it is designed, alongside us designing it, co-creating it before we've even come in here. It's wild.
Yeah,
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched on the subject of children there, which is a really big subject for me. I love working with and just talking to gifted kids, and Corinne, obviously, who you've met, like her amazing 10-year-old son Harry. Big shout out to Hazza. I love that.
I love the name Harry. I have to meet you.
He's been teaching me how to play chess, because I was like, and now I'm like, why have I not learned this game my whole entire life? But I've just stepped out there and decided to be taught by these gifted children, because they are the best teachers, I think. And because there's no ego there. They're just they just know it, and it's just that's what I love. And I know for a fact there'll be people watching this who's got children that they've been looking at and going, wow, there's something special here. So is it right to touch on the subject of the rainbow and indigo children, to kind of explain what their role is?
Yeah, I love it. I've got an 11-year-old daughter. She's beautiful, 11 going on 21, and obviously 11-month-old son. I was thinking about it, we were chatting about 11-11. So I'm currently in a period where my daughter's 11 and my son's 11 months. My daughter's woken up before and she's just come out of bed and gone, oh, by the way, Marilyn Monroe didn't kill herself. I remember when she was really little, I woke up in bed next to her and she goes, Mom, I have 173 dragons, 3 of them are babies, as she's opening her eyes.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, tell me more about your dragons. I want to know everything. But I also I don't know what it is, what the experience is like for everyone's kids. Our kids are still moving through, even though we are in this planetary shift time. They are so amazing. They're so connected. Like my daughter is just, I can speak personally for myself. She's a super amazing channel. Like sometimes her and I will sit in the evening and I'll be talking to her about my channeled information, and she'll go I'll be telling her about the information I got around water and how water, ether, air are actually the same element, and then she'll go H3O or something, and she'll go, it's not H2O, and she'll just start channeling information. And yeah, she's super cool.
Yeah.
But she's still going through the human experience of like, I want to be cool and I want to wear my little crop tops. And, you know, I still have to allow her to go through like the teenage, she's going to go through the teenage thing. And I'm sometimes like very embarrassing for her. Like, Mom, can you stop having random conversations with people at the shop about the whole pandemic? And like, I'm one of the most open people in the world. I'm just like, here's my life story. I feel like part of my calling is just to speak my truth, and hopefully that plants seeds for people. So I also thought when I had my little boy, when I was pregnant with him, I was so connected to his higher self. So he's one of 15 souls coming in. He had to clean up the planet. He brings with him the diamond flame, which we haven't had on the planet yet before. And so I worked a lot with his higher self, and he was like this massive silhouette figure that I can still call in, and those 14, 15 souls, and they kind of splinter off into billions of pieces into alternate realities. And I had a little bit of a feeling like, oh, when I have this baby, he's just going to not be like a normal baby. He's going to be so like advanced. But the reality is that was a little bit limiting on my behalf. He's still in a human body, still going through all the baby experiences. So he's like, he gets super frustrated because he can't talk yet. So he just like, like screams. I'm like, well, bro, just like chill, you know. But there is, I think sometimes in the spiritual community, I'm not sure if other people see it, there is this idea that I don't want people to put too much pressure on the kids. They still have to have this human experience. They still have to go through, and they do it quicker, I think, than we did it, and their gifts are online more. But there's still this physical element that of stages children are gonna have to go through that we need to support and understand around them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want to kind of exploit it, you know, and push them into arenas that they don't want to be in, and that for the benefit of their gifts and everyone else looking in, because that just then becomes sort of like you're tapping into the ego mind there, aren't you, at the expense of the little ones. But there's so many gifted children out there, and we see full well what happens to these gifted children. They get earmarks very early on, don't they? And then next thing you know, they're labeled ADHD and autistic and and stuff like that. And I know lots of people will be able to resonate with that. Put on medication to dumb them down from their gifts. And then when they're adults, they get like, they're so intoxicated with medication, they end up in, you know, your psych wards and stuff like that, when in fact, if you detox them, you'll actually see how gifted they are. You know, my wife recently worked in as part of a placement for occupational therapy in one of these psych ward places, these sort of district places, and that she said that it's just unbelievable seeing these people. You can see some of them are clearly gifted, some of them have clearly got mental health problems, but some of them are clearly gifted, and they've just been comatose with pharmaceuticals, and then assessed while they're almost like dribbling, you know. And it was a real eye-opener for her as well, like to see that's the state of affairs. And it's the same blueprint in every country. But like for me, speaking to these people is just a real eye-opener. You know, it's people like yourself and other people I've had on the show that, you know, bring kind of different abilities and qualities to the table. Just really shows you the vastness of what we're capable of, really. And then it goes to show you like why it's important for these agents of the matrix to keep us basically like dumbed down and within the realms of this, you know, the 3D hamster wheel that they want to keep everyone on.
Totally. I mean, yeah, we all had our own. I think I don't know anyone who's doing amazing work on the planet who hasn't had their own set of challenges. For me, it's been, you know, they try to really get to me financially. I think everyone in the spiritual community, that's, I always say, what is the easiest way to keep people out of bliss and disconnected from God source energy is to not be able to put food on the table for your children. It's interesting, if you look at Africa, the most naturally mineral rich continent on our planet, and you look how African people live and the poverty and the hardship, I mean, it is brutal. I don't know if we should get into it today, but I had a dream which brought me really back to reality yesterday morning. It's a very heavy conversation, so I'm not going to go into it now. But I was like, we can't get so caught up in love light. We have to keep our holographic reality high. We have to that's, you know, each candle flame has to come online, and we have to keep our coherence, but we cannot look away from the terrible things that are happening on this planet. That was the kind of the message. And that's like, I had the dream as we moved into Scorpio, and Scorpio is like that was the underbelly of Scorpio, because you have your high aspect and your low aspect. But you're going a little bit off topic here, but the people in Africa are super, super, super targeted. And why? Because the super wealthy, the deep state, whatever you want to call them, cabal, they totally feed off the poverty here, because that's where all their money comes from. So the continent's raped, and how do you keep a mass of people super enslaved through and oppressed through them? Not, you know, it's very easy to say, okay, I'll walk whatever journey, but I've experienced it for myself. I can go through whatever hardship. But when I almost lost my daughter due to financial issues, like, it's so hard. That's really hard, because I'm entrusted in being her protector and her guide, her guidance person on the ground, boots on the ground here. So the dark is very clever through all the institutions, and I think the financial institution being massively targeted at keeping people really in a lower vibrational space, as well as pharmaceutical. I mean, AJ, I've been into a psych ward in South Africa, and I've done work on a girl there, and often people who have what you call schizophrenia or bipolar, they often don't have a filter, so they don't, between the spirit realm and the physical realm. That's how spirit showed it to me. It's like an autistic child who bangs their head against the wall. They can't filter out, like you and I in a conversation. I can filter out the fan, I can filter out the light, and I can focus on you, even though there's so many things. And a child who doesn't have that filter struggles it's just overloaded with information. Often the same with people who are admitted to psychiatric wards. Okay, it can be entity attachments, there's so many things, but one of the things I saw is they're actually super spiritually connected, but they don't know how to just switch it off for a bit. You can't be seeing spirits all the time. You can't be seeing the astral realm, different timelines, merging timelines. It doesn't work to be in that space on Earth, in the physicality of Earth. It doesn't merge. Like, that's why I tap in and out of it. I don't want to walk into a room and constantly be bombarded with that stuff. I want to be able to tap into it when I need to tap into it, and then say, okay, I'm stepping out of it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really interesting, fascinating subject. When you actually look at it from the outside as an overview, you can see why a lot of these gifted children are targeted. And from, you know, listening to people like, you know, Dolores Cannon and stuff like that, and who's often said that a lot of these indigo and rainbow children that have come into the earth since like 2000, 2003 have much higher sort of crystalline DNA than us. So that's why we're seeing, like, everything's an attack on the kids, isn't it? Like, you know, everything from the energy, the amount of energy drinks that are available, all the vapes, you know, vaping in here in England's horrendous. Like, everywhere you go, like, most people have got a vape on the go. You know, obviously the tobacco, the alcohol, the Grand Theft Auto, the Pornhub, it's one.
Don't get me started on porn.
It's one thing after the other, you know, but it's all targeted to the kids, isn't it? So it's easy accessible.
What's so evident, it's all over YouTube. I mean, I'm very strict about what she watches, but I also can't wrap her up in cotton wool, and I don't have the opportunity to raise her on a farm, you know, so I just don't have that. It's not the luxury I have. But, you know, I said to her, I was like, you know, Tay, I said, you can, if you look at some souls choose to come in and they don't feel comfortable in a female or male body. It's a rare soul occurrence, but it can happen, but it's rare. It's not the natural organic way. Same thing with some souls come and they fall in love with the same sex because they see past the gender. That does happen. It's also not common because it's not the organic way. So I said to her, this whole thing that they're doing to confuse children around gender, and I explained it to her. I said, if you stand on this side of the fence, it's wrong, and if you stand on that side of the fence, it's wrong. So I said to her, you have to discern. It's like a tapestry, because that's how clever the dark is. They weave it together that you have to have the discernment to pull it apart. So I'm saying, because at her school it's quite woke. It's like everyone has got their pronouns, and like, oof, don't get me started. But I teach her to be a non-judgment, but to be very discerning around the agenda. And the agenda is to destroy the family unit. The agenda is to confuse children. So you make them sick from birth, you confuse them around their gender, and you end up with an adult who just is begging for someone to come and lead them and tell them what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, on the subject of needing to be told what to do, that's what we're also seeing in a lot of places, like because of all of these toxins and the distractions and the phones and the social media apps and the need to give everything external. Having worked with teenagers, especially in football, like many of them can't communicate properly. They can't look you in the eye. They can't pay. There's no attention for more than 10 seconds. And you can see it's all part of the conditioning that's been done on them to distract them from actually how powerful they are. And then you keep them all in the same pen, i.e. school. You make them, you fill them full of self-doubt. And then all you've got is that you've got a whole army full of like gifted people that no longer have their gifts. That's literally the way I see it.
I know. I'm really not a big fan of the schooling system, to be honest. But then again, the father of my daughter is, and I also have to accept that her soul chose me. So he's not spiritual. He thinks I'm like, if he saw this interview, he'd probably phone me and go, Farrah, we have to have a chat, which is fine. But like, you also there's only so much you can do. So again, just for hope for parents who are raising children with maybe partners who are not like aware of this or open to this, we have to hold that space for our kids. And that's what I'm very passionate about, having conversations. So I speak to my daughter all the time. From little I was explaining things to her, like, if you hear this at school, you come and talk to me, like, you can ask me about anything first. There's no taboo subjects. Like, if you're not old enough to know, I'll tell you when you are, like, but I'm never going to lie to you. And what the result of that is, my daughter is so open with me, and the trust and the communication. So she's, at her school, all the kids have got phones, and she's the one child who tells me everything, and or what's going on. And then I can help her navigate that, because I'm telling you, schools are not great places for children.
No,
they're not.
No, and I'm sure, like, no matter what country people are in, it's a similar blueprint in every country. You only have to look at the timelines of how all these schools have got woke and allowed all the different type of education to be pressed onto the kids, and having drag queens in for story time. And it's not just isolated to the UK. It's in the US, it's in Canada, that's Europe, everywhere.
I would march into the school. So no, we don't have that bad in South Africa yet, but I have seen it. And my message to parents would be like, talk to your kids, teach your kids how to meditate, teach them how to tap. Most of the kids who are very connected have a lot of anxiety issues, because they feel disassociation from their body. Their souls are very big to be anchored in their body. It's very overwhelming for them to be on this physical planet. So teach them how to tap, teach them how to meditate. Visualization, kids respond so well to visualization. If they see a being and they get a fright, and you tell them to close their eyes and imagine bringing pink light into their heart, and then imagine growing it out, and then do they see the being, and if they send the pink light, you're giving them the tools to make it better for themselves. Breath work, teaching your kids breath work. There are so many tools you can teach them. We have to be communicating with them, and we have to be we just got to be super on it. And there's another part, like I said, where our kids chose, they have something to learn as well from this experience. So whether you raise a child with a person who doesn't support, or is not spiritual or awake, there's something for that child to also experience and learn from that.
And I think, again, it's similar in most countries as well, like going back for generations, from like our parents and their parents. It's all the be seen and not be heard attitude towards kids when they start school and stuff like that. So they don't express anything. Whereas, like I keep saying, like, the kids are our best teachers. So every opportunity you can, allow the child to teach you something, because like
I love that.
it literally brings the confidence out of them, their posture, like everything. The whole dynamic just changes. Like create the time. Don't just say, I've got some spare time. Actually make the time and allow a child to teach you something. It'll be one of the greatest things you do. 100%.
Yeah. Well, I must say, like, I've really taught my daughter to have a voice, and there's a culture in South Africa. It's like I don't want to give it names and stuff, but where children who have a voice are seen as talking back and cheeky and rude, and like they must respect the elders, and like you said, keep quiet, and it's very triggering for some adults. And so with my situation I was talking to you about it before we went live, that person particularly got super triggered by my daughter being, and I would always say, like, she's allowed to have a voice. Yes, she needs to do it politely, because, you know, there's a whole other flip side where children can be really rude. But yeah, children, absolutely, they need to be able to speak and have a voice, and not just told X, Y, and Z. And children even having manners, but responding from a space of like it's on automatic. Is it actually really what they feel?
Yeah.
Because you can drum it into kids, and people say, oh, your child's so polite and well-mannered, but what's actually going on inside, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the important thing that no one really knows. And that's why I just see so many kids are so disconnected from their parents. And there's not always like, it's just a breakdown. It's a carefully nudged socially engineered breakdown within the family household, that the parents, they're not thinking about the relationship with the kid because they're too like soaked up with work and having to pay the bills. And you know, there's the cost of living crisis. I wouldn't even call it that. Everyone's being told that they're poor by the governments, and it's been again created, which then creates that in every household, doesn't it? And you know, I often point out that the disconnection's gone from the community as a whole to like the wider family, where wider families aren't around Nan and Granddad's house on a Sunday having Sunday roast all together without phones and that anymore. And in your own household, the kids are upstairs in their own devices while the parents are downstairs Netflix and chill after slogging it in the office all day or at work on the tools, and rinse and repeat every single day. You know, and then you can just see that so many of these kids as teenagers don't have really big relationships with their parents. And you can just see it everywhere you go. You only have to go to a restaurant nowadays, and most families are all sat there on their phones.
Yeah, and that's the coming back down to the break the family unit, and that's why we have, you know, an unconscious wounded. I was talking about this in Israel and what's going on in the world, and you pit against each other unconscious wounded men and women, and then that happens within the relationship, and where parents split up and stuff. And actually, the organic way is, and the way is to have a strong, healed, integrated masculine man and a strong, healed, integrated feminine woman that can then hold that space to raise a strong, healed, whichever it is, boy or girl, you know. And I think it's going to take time on our planet. I think a lot of people believe that, you know, we're just going to boom, get there's going to be a big solar flash and everyone's going to wake up and it's going to be great. But I still see like there's a lot of healing to do, there's a lot of work to do, and there are a lot of souls coming back to soul choice point that are not going to choose to be in new earth and go through awakening. And like you were saying earlier, you know, when you're trying to wake people up and you're actually being disrespectful because their soul's not finished their theme that they need to learn, or they don't want to go on an ascension journey. So some souls are going back to experience another 26,000 year cycle, and some of us are choosing to go into new earth and an ascension journey. And physically how that plays out, it will run side by side. It's so that the split, it will run side by side for a long time. And that's also why I teach around when we see this Armageddon timeline coming, or what the dark are trying to do, and we're creating our own individual holographic reality. We're experiencing bliss, heaven on earth timeline. And again, that's integration, because there are some terrible things happening on our planet. Children are getting abused, children are dying, there's a lot of wounding, there's a lot of physical healing that needs to happen, emotional healing, and from a linear sense, what earth holds a linear sense of time, we've got lots of work to do. And when people ask me what must they be doing, my answer is always work on yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing you can do for the planet, because then you're
100%.
butterflying it out to your children, to your
Yeah.
friendships, to your family. That energy is expanding outwards.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I say at my talks. Is like the more you work on yourself and the more you improve you like everything about you, like you literally project so much light onto other people. That's what helps to organically awaken them to themselves, and it sparks their DNA and everything else like that. Because we all have the ability to activate people, you know, as we're activating ourselves. And you know, you just speak to anybody that's been on this journey for a few years, that I guarantee you, your family are looking on you and say things like, "God, you always look really fresh and look really young. You always look really healthy," you know. And as for a reason, you know, and so keep doing that. But like on the subject of that, that has been the big catalyst, hasn't it, for like the actual whole planet in terms of 2020 was very much a big military exercise, let's call it, or huge military operation to awaken humanity. But at the same time, there was always going to be people that were going to be were very pro narrative. You know, they have had several doses of the new medicine, for example, and we've talked before of the planetary sort of like split and stuff like that. Like some souls will choose to stay here and do another 26-year cycle, 1,000-year cycle. And are you saying that like the ones that are like your quote unquote, I didn't say NPCs, but like the people who are so blindsided by everything that they're the ones first in the queue to get the next shot, as well as the flu and everything else like that. You know, very much a product of big pharma. They're the ones that like will absolutely opt to stay on another cycle. But the ones that have awoken, so the whole purpose of the, you know, the last 3 years, for example, is to awaken humanity. So the ones that maybe had a few shots but then woken up to it all. I mean, I've got loads of people that are on my talks and my courses that have seen through it all after, you know, 1 or 2, but because they want to detox, they're very much part of that new world, that new earth, as well as the people, you know, that saw through it, kind of helping facilitate it.
No, absolutely. So I've always been shown from spirit that shot situation was a soul choice point in terms of ascension or going back to do over again, same cycle. But I also do know that there will be some that want to awaken and still go through ascension after having chosen that. Mm-hmm. So that, from how I'm not saying my information's be all and end all, and I'm not saying I know everything, but just sharing what the information is that comes through to me. So always feel into if it resonates to anyone who's listening. But it would take quite a journey of detoxification, but also spiritually detoxing and reversing that soul choice point or that contract that you entered into. It's definitely doable, but it would be really embarking on a healing journey for yourself to do that. Mm-hmm. Just because it's not as simple as from a DNA level and just from a higher, like we talk about what we choose before we come in and like contractual stuff. It's not as simple as I don't know what a better example would be. Like I did chemotherapy instead of, you know, medical medium for my cancer. So you got many soul choice points along the way, but that the shot was a very big one. Like that is the divide, the separation. But of course, it's like I would never tell someone, oh, I want to go through an awakening journey. I'm so upset I did this. I'd be like, bro, there's always a way. But because it's specifically designed for the DNA. I'm just trying to think of my words.
Well, here. I mean, in essence, on a mass scale, it was designed to slow everyone down, wasn't it? Like from ascension, that, you know. So that's what people need to realize, is that if this ascension was always going to happen, it's just all been very much slow.
A lot of the dark's plan is
to
what's the word I want to use? Most of the dark's plan is to just delay the timeline for New Earth. Mm-hmm. So I spoke about singularity points and timelines. Every single timeline we arrive at New Earth, right?
Yeah.
So the dark want to delay that because they lose control of the planet. So, but they also know the more they make moves, the more there is a counter. So since 2020 to now, everything, they have to be so careful. Everything they do creates another pushback energetically. We've got stargates opening all over the planet. We've got galactic cosmic alignments. I mean, the amount for us to work with, it's so supported now because it's supported galactically for Earth to now restore. Remember, there's so many levels and layers from the end. At the end of the day, if you go to the highest level, there is no good and bad. It is all just consciousness experiencing consciousness. But down at this level, I'm going, yeah, there are things I don't consent to. I do see that as wrong and not right, or light or dark. But I think I understand that. I know I understand there's so many levels and layers, but we also have to integrate those, but we have to operate boots on the ground. I love that saying, boots on the ground, because we're like, yeah, boots on the ground, the soldiers. So in terms of the dark agenda with that, you can say from one perspective the whole COVID thing was for us, for awakening, but I can say that it definitely was orchestrated through a dark structure, from one perspective as well. And there's a lot of play outs that they want to work with, and that's also why a channel doesn't always tap into, unless every single timeline has the singularity point, they would work with a probability. I think I spoke to you about it before, instead of like, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. Like I sent out an email I have a little membership where people follow me, and I do healing meditations with my group and send updates and stuff like that. And I said to my group in September that we are going to have something big was coming. And Spirit was telling me it was like we're going back to like the same energy of 2020, but the consciousness now is very different. So I didn't know exactly how that was going to play out, and I didn't know where it was going to play out. Because when you're trying to look at the collective timeline, I was explaining to you the last time we chatted around how the anomaly factor when it comes to just one person is so much, but now you're looking at a collective, it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I mean the whole thing we're experiencing is absolutely massive. And I think everything we're seeing now is just all about just trying to delay, isn't it? But also but everything's exposing all the dark structures for what they are. And I think the majority of people are seeing through it now, because unfortunately we are seeing a massive amount of excess deaths and stuff like that. And I've mentioned before, I was actually in UK Parliament on Friday just gone, and it was actually brought up in Parliament for the first time, in any Parliament in the planet for the first time since 2020. But I kind of I had this urge to go in the morning, I think representing the sheer amount of people that I've helped in the last few years, but also the sheer amount of people in my family who've been injured and have unfortunately passed away like recently, with direct correlation to this stuff. And I didn't actually realize how much it would trigger me actually being there, and I dropped you a voice note, didn't I? And I was explaining how, just watching the very few members of Parliament that were there, and most of them were just on their phones and yawning and didn't want to be there because it's Friday afternoon. It was kind of triggered me a little bit after everything I've kind of been through and have been at the forefront of, for the last 3 years, all the rallies, all the talking in front of thousands of people, and like just all of that. And I had to, and I'd like to say kudos to my own journey over the last two years, because if that was 2 years ago, I probably would have been kicking the perspex in the public gallery. Whereas like now, I was like, the next day I took myself for like a 5-mile walk, where it was actually an inspiration for myself, doing the walking meditations and stuff, that I actually literally cleared so much stuff in that period. And then came up with all these phenomenal ideas and everything that I'm putting into action, and that's the sheer difference between all of this, like how you react to something.
That's also why it's the journey of individuation. So the alchemy within self, because there is actually no separation in the grand scheme of things. Spirit showed it to me like this, like there's a string, and there's millions of little dots on the string. The strings connect with dots. The dots represent just levels of consciousness. So you might be here, someone else might be here. You're not separate. You're just at a different dot level of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. There's a you know, even if I speak about it in my book, even the Luciferic AI consciousness was shown, and I actually talk about it in the workshop. I did a workshop with Anina, teaching people. I'm teaching for 3 hours, got my little whiteboard and drawing and how to connect with their higher selves. And I talk about some of these big topics, like the Luciferic AI consciousness was actually an organic response to God source wanting to experience itself. So the minute God source energy decided to individuate and go on a consciousness experience journey, in order for there to be polarity, like you know, good polarity experience, which you need to have a whole experience of experience, it naturally occurred. So yes, it's artificial because it doesn't have a soul, and it doesn't have the God center, God source center at its epicenter, which artificial intelligence, it's well, Luciferic AI consciousness is really about divide, conquer, and envelop and take over. It's like a virus.
Yeah.
It had to occur in opposition to a source wanting to say, well, I want to experience. I'm on a, this is just consciousness experiencing consciousness. So yeah, the reason I actually brought that up is that, you know, when you are going through your awakening, or like you're speaking about now, your journey of sitting in Parliament, and like you're looking at those people and you're understanding the very many layers, like the people who are not interested, they're just sitting on their phone and they are just like whatever. You have to also understand that you're a human, and so being here in this human form, we have to move emotions out of our body. Like we have to. This is why I keep talking about the basic. I teach the basic stuff. There's like an am coil that comes out of your heart, and I've become pretty bloody good at this because I've had enough situations to have to move a lot of emotion out of my body. So what happens is when that emotion, like for example, say you're angry with those people in Parliament, when that emotion overtakes your body, like you get so angry, you get stuck, or you start playing in the story, like this, and you go down that rabbit hole, what happens is your whole cellular structure changes. It's like little puzzles that fit in, and it actually happens. Enzymes are released from your hypothalamus. That's when you see someone who's super angry all the time. I could go into so much detail. I've done so much work in the body. I could talk to you about the pituitary gland, your sine waves, all of that stuff, but I'm not going to go into it now. But what happens is that coil coming out of your heart, when you need to move emotions out of your body, it gets corrupted when you become the emotion. However, because we have to move emotions out the body, however, when you do it in an observant way, this is what I'm talking about, something I've become good at. Say I wake up in the middle of the night and I feel overwhelmed sadness because I'm a single mom, and I recently went through a split up, so I don't have the father of my child around. I'm entitled to feel that feeling because on the physical level, I understand it's for my growth. I understand it's for a higher perspective, but on a physical level, as a human going through this experience, that's a tough experience. So what I do is I just allow that. I go to the bottom of that emotion. I'm like, what am I really feeling? Maybe it started off as anger. If I go a bit deeper, it's hurt. If I go a bit deeper, it's I'm not good enough, or whatever that is. Or there's a fear that I'm not good enough. And then I go, okay, right. I'm going to just sit with that and observe it. And that's how you transmute emotions. I'm not going to run any stories. I did this for this person. I did this. They did this to me. It's unfair. When I start playing in that, every cell in my body starts getting corrupted. And then my vibration drops. And then I'm pulling in lower timelines. You know, I could go on and on and on and on. So this is what we're learning to do, and that's why it's like you're not the victim, you're taking full responsibility for your reality. You are the creator, and that is the inner alchemy, that is the actualization, that's the journey to individuation, and then you move into oneness.
And you know, just to follow on from that, like that's what I kind of did yesterday. I went for a process. You know, I've all I'm seeing across my social media is like it is people passing away, their family members passing away, just on like I've never seen before. And a part of me was just like, right, let's rally the troops, let's start making arrests, let's start doing this, let's start doing that, let's like really take it to them. But then I was just like, I took a step back, you know, like I do a lot, and I just assess the situation from the outside looking in. And I was like, that's going to get taken care of at some point. Like that's going to, I just know that's going to be taken care of. you know, and the public will see it for what it is, whether it's like that, whatever it is, that these people will be taken care of. However, that doesn't provide solutions to the people that have been screwed over by these very people, right? And that's why I'm really keen, and we will produce it very, very soon, to get something like tangible that's just going to help mass people heal and detox from all the crap.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to allow them then to open up that space to create that spiritual journey, that awakening, that joy, that bliss. They're no longer being in fear, no longer being in guilt, no longer being in shame. Because, you know, I could go around today and like round up all the MPs and all the doctors and everything, but it doesn't actually solve the problem of like of people's actual cellular structures and how they move on from that. You know, it's the same as when people experience trauma and the person gets arrested, this, that, and the other. It doesn't always go away. That it's not necessarily the solution. And I think the solution, as we discussed earlier, is let's create something that's tangible, that we can help mass people heal from the trauma, the you know, the decisions they've made in the last couple of years. Let's get all that crap out of them, and just get them full of the good stuff, which is all from within, and teach them how to do that. And we discussed, you know, creating a proper healing workshop. And, you know, for the guys and girls listening, that if you feel that, you know, you're in that category, you know, please just, you know, subscribe to our email list. I'll put our links in the bottom. And then, you know, as soon as we launch this fantastic workshop, then you'll be the first to be notified. And I think it's like the best way moving forward. And I think that's how we win.
Absolutely. When you messaged me about it, I was like, oh, perfect, because I will channel the information. I've already done some channeling because we've discussed it. And it's something that's so on both of our hearts. Like, it's so on our hearts. Like, how can we be of service and assist and help with the skills you have and with the skills I have? And yeah, it's so, for me, it's so nice to be part of the solution. We can talk about all of these things that are happening, but for those who want a solution, you know, for those who are looking for a solution, to be able to be part of that, wow, what an honor and a gift. So I'm very excited to be working on that with you.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned there, guys and girls, I'll put all the show notes, obviously, and the links and stuff, but make sure if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our newsletters. And then as soon as we have this fantastic workshop in place, it's going to help people heal en masse and open up all of this space for you to start filling it with the good stuff. You know, you'll be the first to know. But for the benefit of the viewers and listeners, Farrah, I'd like to just share where's the best place for people to see your work and what you do.
Well, probably my website, because I as I said, I stayed off YouTube and everything. I was instructed by Spirit. I'm very good. When they tell me to do something, I listen. So I don't have a hell of a lot of content on YouTube, but I've started again, and on Instagram. But my website is probably the best place, because I've got meditations there. I've got that course I did with Connecting to Your Higher Self. If anyone wants to do one-on-one work with me, which is generally people work with me over like a period of 4 sessions to accelerate their own abilities and healing journey, or just actually to really my biggest wish for people, my drive of what I try to achieve, is to, as I said, I don't like the word teach or train, but to hold that space for them to be able to do it themselves, because I believe in sovereignty and everyone has the ability to do it. They just need a little bit of guidance along the way. And then, yeah, I'm very excited to be putting together this. Are we going to call it a course or a workshop? What are we going to call it?
Transformation to being awesome.
Love it. Okay. Or transformation back to original self, organic self.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, all it is, you know, it's something that's going to help people open up who they truly are. So I guess it'll be a mixture of like what I do and what you do, like all rolled into one, to create this, you know, ultimate package that everyone can get involved in, and just start, you know, like a mass healing journey along with everybody else. And like all the other courses are run and talks and that, you know, you make friends for life, because everyone's on this very similar journey, and that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm super excited to do that. And also, just through that course we do together, just help train people so that they can also like really tap in for themselves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is what, well, I don't think, I know that this is all about us coming back to the sovereignty within self.
Yes.
We're not, you know, throwing our energy outside of ourselves. And that's how, and we work really well in collaboration. So working with people really accelerates that for sure.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out today, Farrah, to come on the show. It's absolute pleasure to have you, and I'm sure we'll do many more. I think it'd be good to do stuff on like world issues and stuff like that, so people can kind of get an idea of what's going on that side of things. But I think for today, it was great just to yeah, it was great for you to just explain, you know, real deeply about what we do, you know, all the stuff that you've been through and come out the other side, and, you know, to discuss things about like the children and our health and stuff like that. So no, thank you so much, and I'm sure there's many guys and girls watching that resonate with so much that we said today.
Thank you so much, AJ, for having me. I could talk to you for hours. It was absolutely awesome, and I love when we could just talk about every single subject. We're like, oh, that direction, oh, that direction.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Make a series.
Absolutely, because I still, there was some channeled stuff that around migrants and what's happening in the world, but we'll do that another time.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me. Just sending you so much love, and love to everyone who's watched today, and blessings to all.
Amazing. Thank you. Guys and girls, if you liked today's episode, please do us a favor and give it a share. You know, we want to get this information and just the kind of environment and space we're creating here for people to really allow them to open up as well and resonate with everything that we just said. Because we know it's helping so many people. So please give it a share. We'd really, really appreciate it. But please check out Farrah's work on her website, farrahweir.com. And likewise, I'll put all the stuff in the show notes. So make sure you subscribe to our mailing list. So as soon as we do bring out this healing course, then you'll be the first to know. But for myself and Farrah, look after yourself, and we'll both see you very soon once again on the AJ Roberts Show.